Conservatives, immigration, and the truth. I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.media. Do you ever get tired of people just implying, without any proof, that conservatives are racist, that they're bigots, or that they're anti-immigrant? It's such an accepted piece of progressive dogma that these people never even offer proof. They just make an offhanded remark and all their friends just nod along. Right? Oh, we all know that. I've heard journalists make these types of remarks, politicos, people that should know better. Well, they'd know better if they actually did some research, if they looked at facts. But this week, CBC engaged in a bit of this kind of drive-by smear, and it wasn't on one of their political programs. It wasn't on a comedy show. It was on The National. You may have heard of The National, Canada's third highest rated national newscast. That's right, it's third in a three-way race. Maybe this type of programming is why. In a segment that's supposed to be about talking to voters, about the election, CBC found a young woman who's voting for the first time. Remember, this is all in the context of the election, who you will be voting for and why. And this young woman, an immigrant from Venezuela, says Canada isn't very welcoming to immigrants anymore. And you know what that means. It's the fault of the current government.
One of the most important reasons for me to go and voting is one of the immigration issue. Canada, the way I see it since I was growing up, is always a multicultural country, diverse country, and the way it seems now is very negative and very intolerant toward immigrants and new citizens. So I would say to a leader that it wants my vote, improve the policies to bring new immigrants to our country.
So this woman implies, actually states right out, that the current government doesn't treat immigrants well, that they need to do better. She says we need a leader that likes and respects immigrants. And not one fact is presented for or against her ideas. Peter Manschmidt just says, on to the next thing. Here's the crazy thing. This woman only came to Canada in 2010. That's just 5 years ago. She's already a citizen. She can already vote. In just 5 years, I'd say that's pretty good. Another point. In 2010, Canada accepted 280,687 new permanent residents. I looked at the figures going back to 1990. That's the highest number by far. Did you know the Liberals actually cut immigration numbers in the 1990s and during economic downturns when he was in office? Pierre Trudeau used to drastically cut intake numbers. Now, this 280,000, that doesn't count the foreign students. We brought in 225,000 foreign students in 2010 and 92,000 foreign workers. These are all high-level numbers. Immigration settlement spending, by the way, is also up, close to $1 billion a year. See, that's a fact. And like many immigrants before them, when my parents came to Canada, the country welcomed them, like they welcomed all our neighbors, but they didn't spend piles of money to help you fit in. And you should have seen my neighborhood growing up. Certain parts of it on my paper route, I couldn't hit 2 doors in a row that were native English speakers, and yet they all came to Canada, they all settled fine. But now we've got a government spending a ton of money, bringing in more immigrants, ton of money to help them settle, but we're told Harper isn't welcoming of immigrants. Now that I've busted that myth, you know what the progressives will say? Oh, sure, but Harper and the Conservatives, they only like a certain type of immigrant, right? He only likes white people. Well, then explain why China, India, and the Philippines are the top 3 source countries of immigrants to Canada. I don't know what you know about these places, but they aren't predominantly white. Not even close. Oh yeah, but we know Harper hates Muslims. That's what we'll be told next, right? Well, that must be why. The next 2 countries on our top 5 source country list are Pakistan and Iran, 2 Islamic republics. In fact, the Muslim population in Canada more than doubled between the 2001 and 2011 census takings. Stephen Harper was in power for much of that. I'm tired of this false narrative going unchallenged. This woman didn't say straight out the Conservatives don't like immigrants. She implied it. She said the government doesn't. CBC didn't do anything to set the record straight, to provide facts. They may not even have noticed they were doing this. I mean, after all, these are all people from the same Laurentian elite group that would just nod along at the dinner party and say, yeah, Conservatives don't like immigrants. Statistics be damned. History, like Liberals turning away boatloads of Jews in the Second World War, putting in policies banning Indian and Chinese immigration, all of that be damned. Because progressives know in their bones Conservatives don't like immigrants. Well, it's false. It's a lie. And it's time to call that lie a lie flat out and set the record straight.
Ow! We're building a studio. Help us out. Click here or visit buildthedream.ca.